Welcome to a new episode of CELTA Insider. Today we're going to talk about two important planning terms: interaction patterns and balance. Now, what do we mean by interaction patterns? This term is about how people interact in the English classroom. Sometimes the teacher is speaking to students. Sometimes everybody is silent as the students are doing an activity on their own, etc. So, interaction patterns tell us who speaks to who during the various stages of your lesson. Now, as a CELTA candidate or any level 5 teaching course participant, you need to include appropriate interaction patterns in the materials and activities you use in your lessons. This means that you need to be able to accurately identify and clearly state these interaction patterns for each stage of your lesson. Now, what about the second term, which is balance? What do we mean by it? And I'd say you need to make sure that there is a balance between your input as a teacher and your students' practice. So too much input that leaves your students without no time for practice is for sure a sign that your planning lacks balance. You also should think about your activities. Is there balance between those activities led by you and those that are student-centered? For example, imagine that you insist on answering every activity with your students and instead of giving them time to think on their own first. Will that produce a balanced lesson? Of course not. Another example. Now, you have a grammar lesson and you decided to run 3 controlled practice activities. But these 3 activities are all multiple choice ones. Does that show balance? Indeed not. So to sum up the idea of balance, your lesson needs to show balance between input from the teacher and output from students. Teacher-led activities and student-centered activities. Your lesson also needs to show a variety of activities. Now let's talk about the different types of interaction patterns. The first one is what we call the plenary. And plenary is when the teacher is talking to students and the students are discussing with the teacher. And the plenary interaction pattern is teacher-centered. And we call it sometimes TS. Now let's watch some examples of plenary stages taken from different lessons. Let's go.
I want you to imagine that you were friends at secondary school, but you haven't seen each other for about 17 years. So again, you're friends, you were friends at secondary school, but you haven't seen each other for how long?
17 years.
Yeah, 17 to 15 years. And your school decided to throw a reunion party. So you're meeting again after how many years? 17 years.
Now, my friends, let's go to another interaction pattern, which is individual work, or IW. And this is when students are reading on their own, or answering activities without talking to their partners. And of course, it's a student-centered pattern. Let's see some examples of this pattern from real classes. Let's go. Now, let's come to pair work, or the PW, or SS. Now, and this is when 2 students are working together. Of course, it's a student-centered interaction pattern, since the teacher is not there. It provides the students with the safe environment they need in the English language classroom. Let's see an example. Let's go. Now, another interaction pattern, which is group work, or GW, or SS, and this is another student-centered interaction pattern. And as pair work, it also provides a safe environment for students to discuss and compare. Let's see an example. Let's go.
Well, yes, I do these things, but I saw you when you see her. Yes, I have a proof. I saw you. Did you get mine here? Sorry?
Now, it is worth saying that students who have spent years in traditional schools, where the teacher does everything, usually object to pair work and group work activities. They have this mentality that when I speak to the teacher, my level of English gets better, but it doesn't when I speak to my classmates, which is a claim that is absolutely wrong. Students' level of English gets better when they speak to their partners, more than when they speak to the teacher, simply because they feel safer with their friends. They know that their friends will not pick on their mistakes. They feel that we are all learners of English, which is not the same scenario with the teacher. Now, all this makes the students more confident and more fluent. And this doesn't happen when they talk to the teacher. Now, another interaction pattern is called whole class mingle. And in this one, students speak to whoever they want in the classroom. It's an interaction pattern that reflects reality. In parties, this is what people do. They do not talk to one person. They talk to many. The beauty of this activity is that it refreshes your students' energy, making kinesthetic students feel better. And of course, it's a student-centered interaction pattern. Let's see an example. Let's go. Another interaction pattern that is student-centered is the whole class debate. In this interaction pattern, the whole class can be divided into two teams. Each team is supporting a different opinion, and the teacher is a kind of a facilitator who gives the floor to different team members to answer one another and responds to comments. Now, let's have a look at some of the things that may go wrong with interaction patterns when candidates are planning their lessons. Here is an extract from a lesson plan taken from a Teaching Level 5 course for the leading. Let's have a look at it. The candidate said it would be TS. However, I would write it with a dash in between or just write plenary, but just TS, there should be a dash in between. As for the exposure and highlighting stages, the way the interaction patterns are written is confusing. We do not exactly know which part would be plenary and which part would be student-centered. It's not clear. As for the abbreviation, for the student-centered interaction pattern, the candidate wrote SS, which is really confusing. Is it going to be pair work or group work? He should have written either S-S for pair work or SS-SS for group work. As for my choice, I would use PW or GW. Clarity would be my preference. Now another example, and clearly there is a problem with interaction patterns for the leading stage. The candidate says it's going to be student-centered. However, the description in the procedures is clearly teacher-centered. As for the listening for gist stage, the candidate says it's going to be per work. But this is weird, because how come that students will listen in pairs? You know, she should have been more precise here, saying that it would be an individual pattern followed by a pair work pattern for checking the answers, something like that. Now, a third example, and in this one we can see that we have too many interaction patterns written next to every stage. Oh my God, a lot, eh? And of course, this is not what your CELTA tutor is looking for. At least, my friend, 3 interaction patterns per stage. So try to reduce the number of interaction patterns you include. You can do this, for example, by not writing the interaction pattern for your instructions, for example, because obviously this will be teacher-centered. If your feedback is teacher-centered, well, then you don't have to include that as well. You can only mention the interaction pattern of your feedback if you're going to change its nature, like making it student-centered, for example. This way you can limit interaction patterns for every stage to 2 or 3 patterns. And this would facilitate your tutor's job when reading your lesson plan. Now, once you look at your lesson plan and notice that 3 stages are plenary or 2 stages are plenary, you will need to stop and check how balanced your lesson plan is. So, to wrap up, interaction patterns and balance are 2 areas that you need to think carefully about when planning your lessons, as they do affect how much interesting or boring your lesson can be. And as they say, my friend, the greatest sin in English language teaching is being boring in your lesson. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this episode of CELTA Insider. And remember, I will be down there in the comments to answer all your questions. So, do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and leave a comment. Thank you for watching. Until we meet again. This was Shadi Abu Yusuf from British Training Center. Bye bye.